Now, last night we did have UFC 310, and this was a pretty stacked card, man. Going into it, I wasn't that hyped for it, but as the card started and the fights kept on going on and on, it actually turned out to be a pretty eventful and exciting card, in all honesty. I know it's getting a lot of hate on social media and Twitter right now. I mean, guys, I think UFC 310 exposed a lot of things about the UFC here. One being jiu-jitsu is fake, does not really work. Two being Ian Gary actually is the future of the welterweight division, even though he lost his fight last night. I'll get into it. Three being Balal Muhammad is more than likely welterweight champion for a while. And four, the UFC as a MMA fight promotion is on an entirely different level than all the other promotions around the world. And what I mean by these, we're going to go ahead and get into it. I do want to hear from you guys in the comments. What did you guys think of UFC 310? And do you guys agree with all the points I'm about to say here today? Let's go ahead and get in my UFC 310 immediate reaction and breakdown. I'd put a hat on, chat, my bad. Opening up the main card last night, we had two featherweight fighters who I wasn't really familiar with either of their games. They did go on to put on a pretty good show. We had Choi Dahu, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, and then Nate Landwehr. I'm not too sure I'm pronouncing either of these guys' names correctly. If you guys see me out in public, do not knock me out. I do apologize. And then coming out, you could obviously see Choi Dahu was on a different level than Nate here, stand-up wise, ground game wise, all around. He pretty much dominated control time. I mean, there was really nothing here that Nate was offering Choi Dahu. I mean, every time, you know, they was exchanging with the stand-up, Dahu would win those exchanges, even rocking Nate a few times. And, you know, even though Dahu was dominant on the ground, he actually did end up winning this by KO, TKO, whatever you want to call it, round three. Now, like I said, I don't know too much about these fighters here. I'm honest and authentic with y'all, so I'm not going to keep on yapping about fighters I don't know. Pretty strong performance from Choi Dahu, and he does have a bright future in the featherweight division, in my opinion. I don't see anyone beating Pantoja for a while, but still bright future nonetheless. So a good little fight to open up the main card. Now, coming up next, this is one of my points I iterated at the beginning of the video on why jiu-jitsu is fake and not real. We have Kron Gracie, which if you guys know anything about MMA, UFC, the Gracie family is pretty much royalty from the early days of UFC, Pride and all that. They dominated, you know, ground game wise, jiu-jitsu wise. The Gracie family is pretty much, you know, pioneers for jiu-jitsu slash MMA, in my opinion. Maybe I'm dick riding, maybe I'm glazing, I don't know. Y'all tell me in the comments. Anyways, we had Kron Gracie's versus Bryce Mitchell, which I mean, hearing the last name Gracie, you automatically think this guy's probably not going to have anything to offer Bryce Mitchell on the stand-up, and turns out that is exactly what happened. Bryce Mitchell battered this dude stand-up, beat him like a fucking drum, like he owed him money. Right off the rip, round one, Bryce Mitchell did go for the takedown, automatically engaging in the grappling, just showing how, you know, confident he is with his ground game. People forget how good Bryce Mitchell's jiu-jitsu is just because, you know, Ilia Topuria submitted him. I mean, Ilia Topuria is just on a different level here, guys, so you can't really blame Bryce Mitchell for getting choked out by the dude. I mean, yeah, he just went on to dominate this fight, ground game wise, stand-up wise, whatever you name it. Pretty much Choi Dahu versus, you know, Nate, and he did end up getting the KO with elbows in round three, and I mean, this was hard to watch. He was bringing him down pretty fucking heavy on this dude's face. Ended up getting the TKO, and the MMA community went crazy. As you guys know, it's like an inside joke in the MMA community. Jiu-jitsu's not real, it's for pussies, just stand up. We have the MMA guru immediately tweeting out, Bryce Mitchell puts that name merchant Kron Gracie to sleep in round three after 2 rounds of Kron trying to embarrass the sport live on a UFC pay-per-view main card. No ability on the feet, and despite Rogan's attempts to make it seem so, no threat on the ground. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is fake, and I don't know if YouTube likes that other word, so I'm not going to say it. And this obviously pissed our boy Dylan Danis off. He said, let's spar live, and I'll have you screaming for your life while I teabag you, and I'll having you. This dude's head must still be hurt from Logan Paul. I don't think that's, you know, correct grammar. If Logan Paul beats your ass, MMA Guru could probably beat your ass too. Just throwing that out there. Then MMA Guru responded, the fact that you succeeded in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is nothing but more proof that it's a made-up martial art for unathletic nerd victims of life that can only implement it on people that don't have any knowledge of it. I'd Boston crab you in 3 minutes. Bring it. We have Wade Plemons responding, I'll commentate. Bro, you have a fight coming up, Wade. Actually, maybe not. Maybe not. Y'all watched the video from yesterday. Maybe not. But yeah, it's absolutely hilarious from MMA Guru there. And Bryce Mitchell put on a pretty dominant performance. Proud of the kid. You know, he got up there after his win. Supported Jesus Christ and all that. He's a good fighter. He's true to his morals. I'm a fan of Bryce Mitchell. Now, next up, guys, this was a little bit of a weird one. We have Alexander Volkov versus Cyril Gane. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Cyril Gane is known as one of the best strikers in the heavyweight division. Just because he got rolled by John Jones and Francis Ngannou, you know, wrestling-wise, does not mean that this dude's stand-up is not crazy. He is known as one of the best strikers in the heavyweight division, which is insane because Alexander Volkov came out here and was just absolutely outstriking him. I mean, in my opinion, and a lot of other MMA fans' opinions, he was outstriking him. Now, me personally, I don't know how other people had the fight scored. I had it 2-1 Volkov, but they actually robbed him terribly. When I say terribly, I mean insanely, to the point that Cyril Gane didn't even agree with the decision in the end, which led to him walking out of the cage. A lot of people was confused, but he pretty much just came out and said, you know, I wasn't happy with my performance. So respect to Cyril Gane there, because we have seen a lot of other fighters in the past who, you know, edged the victory by robbery, for being honest. And they like to gloat and say that they won the fight, they're not giving a rematch and all that. Cyril Gane knew that he lost his fight, and he was unhappy with his performance, so he got my respect here. Cyril Gane's not on the best run in the last couple years after getting rolled around by Francis Ngannou and then pretty much rolled around by, you know, John Jones, the GOAT, my father. Here, as you guys can see, Cyril Gane left the cage after the judges gave him the win over Alexander Volkov at UFC 310. He said it's because he wasn't happy with his performance. Like I said there, guys, I mean, that was a clear robbery. Dana White was freaking out behind stage. I'll throw the video up if I can find it for y'all. Everyone agreed that this was a robbery, even Dana White. He was madder than hell at the judges that scored this. Even his reply right here, biggest robbery in recent years. I mean, you guys can just see the difference in total strikes. The only thing Cyril Gane edged him on was significant strikes, and even I don't know if he edged him on that, in all honesty. We have 2 submission attempts coming out of Cyril Gane here. You're not John Jones, bro. Just calm it down some. But I mean, yeah, overall, other than the ending decision, it was a pretty good fight overall. Like I said, I did think Alexander Volkov won that, along with the rest of the MMA community. So now our next fight, the co-main event, one that was hyped up for a long time. We have the machine Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Ian Machado Gary. And guys, for a co-main fight, this was an absolute banger. And I think this exposed a lot, like I said at the beginning of the video. Now, first off, I'm going to go ahead and go over my first point of why I think Balal Muhammad is actually going to be champion of the welterweight division for a while. I mean, this was just a pretty slow-paced fight. We've seen Shavkat Rakhmonov actually keep it at very low pace. Like, he could not go into a championship fight with this pace that he was showing last night. I mean, there was just a lot of clinching, a lot of up against the cage work and things like that. There was a couple points in the stand-up game, stand-up department, whatever you want to call it, where, you know, Rakhmonov was getting some good shots off on Ian Gary, rocked Ian Gary on one of them even. You can tell it kind of surprised him, woke him up a little bit in his corner after that round. I mean, yeah, this pretty much just turned into a clinching slash grappling match. I don't know. I mean, same with Ian Machado Gary. He didn't look too impressive either here, in my opinion. And me, with a lot of the rest of the MMA community, does see Balal Muhammad actually, you know, edging a decision win over these guys, possibly even a submission. Because that brings me into my next point. Ian Machado Gary is actually the future of the welterweight division. What do I mean by that? Even though he lost this fight, we have Shavkat Rakhmonov, who has been looked at as a machine, as an alien, as a specimen of the welterweight division. We have people scared to fight this dude. He's an absolute hype train. And I mean, I'm gonna be honest, guys, I think Ian Machado Gary actually derailed this hype train last night. I think he exposed a lot of key points. He even came out himself in his post-fight interview and said that he exposed that Shavkat Rakhmonov is human. He almost submitted him twice, and it would have been great to see, you know, Ian Gary submit Shavkat. Who wouldn't want to see that? Actually, there's a lot of people out there that wouldn't want to see that, but you can't deny it would have been a cool win, cool way to win over Shavkat. Ian Gary is holding his head up high with this loss, so I do see him having a very bright future in the welterweight division. I do see him being champion one day still. I do think he's still a very unique striker. Like I said, I don't know what was going on in that fight. Maybe it's a switch of opponents, you know, last minute, whatever you want to say, or maybe it's just him fighting a former teammate. Neither of them really looked like themselves last night, and it was a pretty lackluster fight, in all honesty. I mean, one of the most hype moments of the fight was, you know, when Shavkat rocked Ian Gary, and the other one was Ian Gary's submission attempts that he actually almost locked in. He had a guillotine locked in, it looked like, but I mean, at the end of the day, Shavkat did end up winning the fight. I do agree with the decision, but I do think it exposed a lot of his game, and like I said at the beginning of the video, I do think Ian Gary is the future of the welterweight division. And now, guys, we are at our main event for UFC 310 here. We had Alexander Pantoja versus Kai Askura. For those of you guys who wasn't familiar with Kai Askura's game, I'm not going to sit here and act like he was some type of, you know, world beater. His record going into this fight was 21 wins and 4 losses. But I mean, this fight went how a lot of people thought. Alexander Pantoja did end up edging the submission win in round 2. I mean, Kai Askura right off the gate, opening bell of the first round, comes out and attempts a flying knee. It was crazy to see. But I mean, Pantoja's pacing and grappling was honestly just too much for him. He absolutely ragdolled this dude, in my opinion. Kai Askura did have a few, you know, key moments in the fights, highlights, whatever you want to call it. And other than that, it was pretty much just total domination, submitting him in round 2 here. That proves my last point of the intro of the video, which is, as a fight promotion, UFC is just on an entirely different level. The fan base, the competition, everything, the promotion. I mean, Kai Askura did come from Ryzen. He was a 2-time Ryzen championship in the bantamweight division, I'm pretty sure. But I mean, it's just entirely different, you know, walking out to a crowd over in Japan versus walking out to a crowd over in the US. The UFC fans go crazy, man. Such a strong community. I mean, obviously, you know, walking out in Japan is a lot different from the US, you know, just noise-wise, energy-wise, and all of that. So going into this, Kai probably did have a lot of nerves built up. First fight in the UFC, he was already a main eventer, getting his shot at the title. So, I mean, maybe the hype train was just too much for him. The pressure built up, who knows? But I mean, Pantoja pretty much did what all of us thought he would do. Complete domination on the ground and all around, in my opinion. I mean, Kai Askura coming from Ryzen Championship, which I mean, the competition obviously isn't as high as the UFC over there, but he was dominating kids. Like, 2-time bantamweight champion, and any promotion, in my opinion, is impressive. But he wasn't a complete dog shit fighter. It's just, you know, the UFC's competition was just too high for him. Maybe the moment was too bright, who knows? But I hope you guys did enjoy my immediate reaction to UFC 310 plus my breakdown for it. Sorry if it wasn't too in detail. This is my second video on the channel, and I'm more of a boxing guy than an MMA guy. What can I say? But I still do love my combat sports. So I do want to hear from you guys in the comments. What do you guys think of UFC 310 as a fight card all around? Do you guys agree with my points? What do you disagree with? Let me know in the comments. Try to upload daily over here, so if you guys did go on and enjoy the content you see today, make sure to like, subscribe, stick around for a while. It is free. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your night, man.